I want to talk a lot about the avoiding of the government shutdown and the signing of that omnibus. But first, I'd like you to finish a sentence for me.
Right.
The state of California is
Bleak.
bleak. Why do you say bleak?
Standing. I think we have a lot of encouragement over the last probably 3 or so days as we've seen states, or should I say cities within the state, step up and say we're at our limit. We've had enough. We're not going to be a sanctuary city. We're not going to be a sanctuary state, and that gives me hope. But on the all in all, we are bleak. I mean, our spending is at an all-time high. Our legislators are out of control,
right,
and something has to change.
You're saying the future doesn't look bright.
It doesn't.
And on that, the California primary for that Senate seat is coming up in
right,
June 5th. And according to a statewide survey, only 42% of independents, registered voters in California, approve of the job that Dianne Feinstein is doing as senator.
Right.
So there seems to be a bit of some room there. There's potential.
There is.
I want to ask you about this. There are, and you just mentioned it, there are many Californians fighting back against these
right,
sanctuary policies. So is now the time, more than any other time,
yes,
for a new Republican, to bulldoze through and make a difference?
Absolutely, it is. I believe that now is that time. After President Donald Trump took a sweep in 2016. Sorry, my eyes are watering. It's the lights. I'm not used to it. Or is it the allergies? I'm not sure. But nonetheless, President Donald Trump took a sweep in 2016, and we have to use that momentum.
Right.
Now is our time. So while it's bleak, I believe right now we have also an opportunity to make California golden again.
Golden again, and we've seen that in your campaigning online.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, as we mentioned, the government, of course, narrowly avoided that shutdown.
Right.
The president reluctantly signed that bill, of course, putting
right,
everything on national security.
Right.
He is blaming Democrats for giving up on DACA.
Right.
He's basically saying that they did not want to fund the border wall at all. But should he have vetoed that omnibus? Should
right,
he have signed it like he did today?
Well, that's a hard push. Should the Democrats and Republicans pushed a bill like that, 2,232 pages,
right,
up to 48 hours before government shutdown?
Right.
That is the failure, America, really.
It's
the legislators.
Timing.
Right, it's the timing.
The system is broken.
Right, the system is broken and the legislators aren't doing their jobs. And so what he did was he tried to get what he could out of the situation. And, I think he was successful in some ways. And we lost a little bit of ground in others. But I'm glad he passed it and signed it because this also sends a message. Democrats didn't do negotiating for their dreamers, for the illegals here. They just didn't. They didn't go to work for those dreamers.
Why do you think that is?
You know, Feinstein, she had something interesting to say. She said, I think it was yesterday or this morning, that, oh, well, we basically, she said that, I couldn't vote for this bill.
Right.
And, there was nothing in it for the dreamers, poor dreamers. These legislators are literally putting illegals first over citizens. And when it comes push to shove at the polls, citizens are going to take notice of that.
Right.
That they're put on the back burner. And I believe they're going to take that seriously. Taxpayers are funding these bills, and taxpayers don't want to be handing out all their hard-earned money to illegals. And I think that's something the Democrats fail to realize. And we're seeing the proof of that in the sanctuary city move pushback.
Right, and I want to touch on that again in just a moment, but on this massive spending bill, I want to read this to you. Senator Rand Paul joked last night, he was on Twitter a lot last night, but he jokingly said, it's a good thing that we have Republican control of Congress, or the Democrats might bust the budget caps, fund Planned Parenthood and Obamacare, and sneak gun control without due process into an omnibus.
Well, that's what he just did.
Now that has happened.
Right.
So what's going on here? Is it the leadership? Is it McConnell?
I believe each person in the House of Representatives and in the Senate needs to be held accountable for their individual actions. We can't just blame leadership. We have to blame, and actually we have to make each one of those representatives and senators be responsible at the ballot, ballot box. and it's up to the taxpayers and the citizens to vote them out. And I believe we should see a good sweep in 2018 based on that, not just for Democrats, but also for Republicans.
Right.
The legislators are not following through on what they've promised. When we flipped the House, then we flipped the Senate, we made these different actions and we put people in place, they aren't following through.
Well,
and now we need to hold them to the hilt.
Oh, and you mentioned the patriotism, the constitutionalism that's happening in some California cities when it comes to some of the sanctuary policies. So a California state assemblyman recently said that the little town of Los Alamitos has kicked the door wide open, allowing other cities to follow suit. So how do you capitalize on this moment as a new Republican senator? How do you capitalize on this patriotism, this constitutionalism in California?
Keep the momentum going, keep the conversation going. Citizens, and Californians need to understand that their voice is being heard. And for so long, we are silent majority is what some people call it. So for so long, people have felt like their voice isn't heard. And it doesn't take a lot of us. It just takes a very concentrated effort, as we've seen in Los Alamitos, to make that action happen and keep going.
Well, the Oakland mayor, Libby Schaaf, who warned her people, her citizens, residents, that ICE was doing sweeps and so that they could avoid being arrested. If she were sitting right here across from you, what would you say to Libby Schaaf in Oakland, who basically is going against everything the Trump administration is standing? I
can give you my opinion. I believe that she's a traitor. She's going against her oath of office. I've spoken to many citizens, several yesterday actually, and they all want her in jail. They want her held accountable for her crime against Americans. And it seems like a far stretch for some, and for others it just seems too kind. But what we do have is we have a level of lawlessness going on at the leadership level, not just with the mayors, but also in Sacramento, as we see with Kevin De Leon, and then also in D.C.
Who's also running for Feinstein.
Right, and also in D.C. with Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Okay. I want to touch on a couple more things because I know we're short on time, but according to reports, California Planned Parenthood would have lost right around $260 million a year annually, which would have forced them to shut down about 80% of their operating budget if Planned Parenthood were not funded in this latest omnibus.
Right.
That didn't happen. They did pull the funding through.
Right.
Has a promise been broken by Republicans?
I believe so. And as a matter of fact, I've been speaking to a lot of people, like I have told you, and they're really concerned with, the breach of religious freedom, requiring taxpayers to pay these sorts of funds, and forcing them essentially to fund Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood last year had $1.632 billion revenue point. Okay, why are we funding them at the levels we are with government funding? Questions need to be asked, and we need answers.
Well, and we'll see what happens with that. It seems now that a state such as California, which is already Planned Parenthood friendly, can now be even more entrenched with this new funding. But I want to ask you here: how does this potential for illegal voting in California it weighs on regular people, regular citizens, but for a candidate, for someone who's running for office, how does the potential for illegal voting in a state like California weigh on your mind?
Well, the concern is that there aren't enough eyes in the polling rooms, and so what I think is people need to get involved. They need to become poll watchers, advocates for their own communities, and really play that part. And with citizens in charge and watching in those eyes there, I would feel a lot more confident. But as it stands, we have legislators in charge who are now going to allow people to register to vote simply because they're attaining a driver's license.
Well, what's next?
A little bit unnerving. Right, what is next?
Yeah, what's next? It's unnerving, you say, and what's next to sort of calm those nerves for the Erin Cruz campaign? Well,
what is next is if everybody steps up and they pledge to vote, and they vote for people like Mark Mosier, who's running for Secretary of State, and he will help us clean those voter rolls. I believe that there's going to be a good partnership of strong candidates that are going to put America first after 2018, once you get us there. but we have to get out that vote. We have to get excited about voting again and make California golden again.
Will you reach out to the Trump campaign?
Absolutely.
The endorsement there? Have you tried?
Absolutely. Donald Trump, I'm here. I would love to gain your endorsement. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Erin Cruz, author and Republican candidate for the United States Senate.
Thank you.
Potentially taking on Dianne Feinstein.
Absolutely.
Maybe in June.
Yes.
All right. Erin, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
We can use your help. Call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call today.